Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 4th, and today I listened to 21 by Adele. If you've been paying any attention since 2011, you've probably heard of this album. This album sold numbers that I don't know if we're ever going to see again. It was the highest selling album in the world 2 years in a row. It sold 26 million copies. With this record, Adele became a household name, not just in the UK, but all around the world. I have heard a few songs from it, Rolling in the Deep, Someone Like You, etc., but I haven't listened to the whole thing until today. So what was my first impression of this album? Well, considering what the singles were like, I was expecting this entire album to be very bitter and angry. Just the whole thing, she's just reading this guy's ass for filth. And by the way, she has never publicly said who this album is about. Anyway, I was expecting an entire album of just her tearing into this person, but that doesn't describe all of 21. That does describe the first half of 21, but the second half sounds like her trying to get him back. If you look at the album in terms of the different stages of grief, the first half is anger and depression, and the second half is bartering and denial. It kind of puts the first half of the album in a different context because it doesn't seem to be as much as he did something that was so bad. It was more like this relationship meant so much to her. And here's another thing that I noticed while listening to one of the songs in particular. I knew about this already, but I didn't make this connection until I listened to it today. The song Rumor Has It really sounds like a Lungs era Florence and the Machine song. Maybe that's just me. I'm not going to say anything more about that. Just making an observation. What was my favorite song from 21? It was actually closer than I was expecting. I really liked I'll Be Waiting, but I'm going to have to go with the obvious answer and pick Someone Like You, the album closer. I talked about the other songs in terms of the different stages of grief. This is the only song on the record that would represent acceptance. But it's not a triumph or a win on her part. She's accepting it because she has no choice. It's her realizing that none of the things that she tried worked, and she's not going to get the ending out of it that she wanted. So before she presumably leaves this man's life forever, she has one last request for him. Please remember me. And I think that's a very vulnerable, very human thing to want. It's a bittersweet, not altogether satisfied ending to this album, and it works wonderfully because the whole album is very messy in terms of what is being felt. Were there any songs on 21 that I didn't like? Yes, there is. While I never hated it, I don't think I ever liked Set Fire to the Rain. I always found it to be really overblown and dramatic, but doesn't really have the amount of punch that you would need to fit that. Like, You're Gonna Wish You Never Met Me is a direct threat. I'll Set Fire to the Rain means nothing to me. And it actually comes off a little bit worse in the context of the album because the rest of the songs sound very organic, almost acoustic, a very lounge singer type of thing. And when you listen to this song, it almost sounds overproduced in comparison to the rest. It's always kind of reminded me of The Final Countdown by Europe, a song that is just so overblown, it's kind of silly and hard to take all that seriously. But other than that, I have little to no complaints about the other songs in this album. So the final question is, does this album hold up? Honestly, yes. There is a lot of really good music in here, a lot of really good emotions here. There was one song I didn't care for, but a lot of these songs are very well done, and Adele's music has always had a very timeless feel to it. Yes, it's pop music, but it's fancy pop music. It's kind of hard to verbalize. And in my opinion, her songwriting and singing has only improved since then. There seems to always be a place in the market for breakup albums. Even right now, the two of the biggest albums from last year were Sour by Olivia Rodrigo and Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. They weren't really pure breakup albums the way that this one is, but a public breakup of a celebrity played pretty big parts in both of them. I have, in my videos, talked about how I don't really like the tone that these public breakups are taking, but I think that Adele did it in a very classy way. 2 thumbs up. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow.